So I brought, before this lesson, I basically gave you all a case study. It is based on a previous research that has been conducted. I just adapted it to the current situation that we are experiencing. So I'm just going to read it out. Some of you did not respond, and that's okay, but I will go over the results in the next slide. So imagine that you are on a team of researchers who are working on developing a cure for the recent coronavirus outbreak. This virus has affected around 30,000 people around the world with a death toll of 638 people. The projection suggests that 750 more people will die. Your team has been able to develop two alternative programs to combat the virus. Assume that the exact scientific estimate of the consequences of the programs are as follows, and choose a program you think should be implemented. So I basically divided you into two different groups, and the way that the programs were framed was different. So group one got a positive frame, wherein program one said that if they implemented program one, 250 people will be saved. And program two basically was framed as there is a 1 out of 3 probability that 750 people will be saved, and 2 out of 3 probability that no one will be saved. The second group was basically given the negative frame, and program one for negative group suggested that 500 people will die if they implemented that. And program two suggested that there is a 1 out of 3 probability that nobody will die, and 2 out of 3 probability that 750 people will die. So I have put your results and compared it to the results of Tversky and Kahneman, their original study, and these were the comparisons. So basically, what is happening here is, even though these are all framed differently, they are essentially all the same. 250 people, regardless of the program here, are the ones who are going to survive, right? Here, for example, if you look at 1 out of 3 probability is 250 people that are going to be saved off the 750. And here, 500 people is the same as literally saving 250 people and 500 people dying. So here saying there is a 1 out of 3 probability that nobody will die. 1 out of 3 probability is 250 people out. So if you divide 750 by 3, that's basically 250. So essentially, all of these are saying the same thing. But the way that they are framed confuse us, or rather bias us in our decision making, and we decide based on the frame that we are getting conned into, basically. And this is why, even though we are information processors, we are referred to as cognitive misers. So cognitive misers, the term basically suggests that even though we want to make sense of the world, we're really lazy and we want to put very little effort into truly making sense of the world. So such kind of framing effects can bias our decisions and can easily mislead us. So here, the results clearly demonstrate the influence of the frame. Where information was phrased positively, right, the number of people who would be saved, people took the certain outcome that people will be saved over the ones which could potentially mean that there were so many people who are going to die, right? On the other hand, when information was phrased negatively, and showed that people were going to die, 500 people were going to die. This looks like a lot, right? Very few participants chose that option because this looked like the better option. Here it shows that 500 people are going to die for sure, for certain. Whereas here it shows that, at least the frame shows that there's 1 out of 3 chance that nobody will die. So most people or most participants would choose this option, even though all of it literally is the same, right? In all of these programs, 250 people will be saved and 500 people will die. So we will be looking at this experiment later on in our chapter on reliability. I hope you had, I mean, it's interesting to say that you guys here had 50-50 chance. I wonder what that would be. But again, it goes on to saying that there really is no difference. So, yeah. Because we are such misers, right? We put so little effort into really, truly, rationally processing information in our environment. This becomes almost a vulnerability that we have as human beings because we're easily manipulated. Businessmen and advertisers are easily able to understand the psyche of the consumer and say, okay, this is how I'm going to sell this product because the consumer is going to be easily trapped into it. Sales are a very good example of, how we are trapped into spending so much money. Yeah. So consumer psychology is a whole field of psychology which studies human biases and human needs to really understand and sell products. While it does make us vulnerable, at the same time, there are positives to having cognitive biases. For example, body image, right? A lot of people have body image issues, and some of these even lead to eating disorders. So, a lot of research, Janssen, so conducted by Janssen, that's one example that I have given, and I've also put it up on Teams. So if you want to do some extra reading, you can go through that paper. But these researchers and other researchers can confirm the same. They found that people who do not have a cognitive bias, so basically, the idea is that we as human beings, when we look in the mirror, right, we look at ourselves as being more attractive than we really are. And that is a cognitive bias, right? It's a self serving cognitive bias. That we are attractive, maybe even more attractive than we truly are. So, people who have body image issues tend not to have this cognitive bias. So, if you look at it in that sense, having this bias is actually more functional and it is good for us because it prevents us from developing body image issues and also further developing eating disorders, which can be quite debilitating to our functionality as a whole. So again, like I said, if you want to read more about this, I have put the paper up on Teams and I will also put it up on our class notebook as I always have. So I hope you are able to find some interest in that paper. Okay, so the second principle, these are very brief, suggest that mental processes can be investigated scientifically and non-invasively. I've already gone over this, that the behaviorists and the cognitive psychologists really wanted to make the field of psychology scientific and observable. So you will see that this approach, the cognitive approach, has a lot of effort put into creating experiments and conducting research that is observable and, like it says here, non-invasive, not having to chop a person's brain up and being able to understand mental processes through different activities or stimulations, right? Simulation, sorry. So the final principle, principle 3, is that cognitive processes may be influenced by social and cultural factors. We as human beings cannot isolate ourselves from where we are brought up, right? Our culture and our society and its norms and its rules basically make up who we are. So is it possible then that society and culture influence the way we think, the way we process things, the way we remember things, the way we focus on different material? One good example is the idea of individualism and collectivism. Individualism, I think I might have talked about this in class before, but individualism basically is our cultures, right, that focus on the self, right? Improvement of the self, personal goals. So basically the whole focus is on personal gain. Whereas collectivism is when individuals focus on the group. And there's research that you will come across again when we look into abnormal psychology that shows that the case study was of Sri Lanka. In 2003 or 2004, Sri Lanka was hit by a massive tsunami that basically displaced the whole island. And researchers or psychologists rather from the West, basically from the US, flew into Sri Lanka hoping to provide aid to all of these people, thinking that they would experience PTSD, considering the fact that the whole island had experienced near death. But when they got there, people weren't focused on the memory of the tsunami. Rather, they were trying to figure out how their society could improve and could get back to being a functional country. So, again, culture and society and social factors play an important role on how we process events. Some people, going back to the war, maybe some people will really feel that the war was the end of everything, that they cannot move on from that. Whereas others might be like, okay, this is what I've done for my country. It was my duty, and my group, basically my country, is safe now, and I can move on. So yeah, so this principle basically looks at how, or suggests that social and cultural factors cannot be isolated from how we process information, and that we are strongly influenced by these factors. So we will be ending this session or this lesson with another activity. This time, I want you to choose one very vivid memory that you have, a memory that you remember in great detail. This could be a first date, passing of a pet, a great report card that you received, maybe a social service experience, whatever you choose. It just has to be a memory that you really remember well. So once you've chosen that memory, I want you to really reflect on what are the things that helped you create that memory in such great detail and helped you maintain it in such great detail. So what are the factors that contribute to the fact that this is a memory that you remember really well? So once you've reflected on that, I want you to draw out a diagram of how, or basically a model of this memory. And I will put up a example of one of my memories on Padlet as well, which is where you will be sharing your diagram. Once you've created the diagram, hopefully you can do it online using maybe Canva or even PowerPoint, whichever you prefer. Save it as a JPEG file, and then you record yourself sharing your memory and also explaining the model that you have created or devised. And this will all happen on Padlet. This is the Padlet that I've created for this activity. You will click on the plus button here, and once you've done that, you can click on that and share your screen. So the first time you share your screen or choose this option, it is probably going to ask you to download an extension, which this is a Padlet extension. Once it's downloaded, it automatically installs itself. So you just refresh the page and come back and click on these again and just say share screen. Once you've done that, you can go and they give you different options. So you can share your entire screen, a specific application window. I'm going to choose this window, which I have opened up my diagram on. It's basically a picture basically a picture. So I will then click share, and while I have my sharing going on, I will describe my memory and I will explain the diagram or the model that I have created of that memory. Again, I will be uploading this as an example on Padlet, and I guess that can be used as reference of what is expected of you before you get started on the activity. I hope this video was helpful and that you're able to now understand the gist of the cognitive approach, what we're going to be exploring, and so on. Again, you will get some time next class to finish off this activity. If you have any questions about it or anything else that we've covered so far, feel free to message me on WeChat or Teams or even email. If it's something that you think is relevant to the whole group, you can put it on the Teams group chat, and that would be great. All right, so goodbye for now. I will see you all back online on Wednesday. All right, bye-bye.